Tappei has just released Arc 7 Chapter 25, and this will be a summary for that chapter. I highly recommend you check out my Chapter 24 summary. Anyways, let's get started. The chapter starts with a description of Priscilla, who stands around the clutter and destruction. Despite that, she displays a violent beauty which attracts attention as she holds a red shining sword in her hand. Subaru was confused. Why was Priscilla in Wallachia? Why did Priscilla save Subaru and Rem? And more importantly, why did Priscilla confront Arakiya with no care in the world? Subaru was overwhelmed with questions, but lacked any answers. Due to his slothfulness, Priscilla criticized the dumb look on his face. However, Subaru quipped if she had eyes in the back of her head, since she wasn't actually facing Subaru. Around him, Rem, Subaru, Abel, the injured Shadrakians all couldn't move and were heavily injured. The person who caused this damage was Arakiya. However, at that moment, Priscilla called out Arakiya's name. Arakiya was a divine general which held the rank of 2. She was immensely powerful, and that could be observed after their skirmish. However, after being called by Priscilla, the only response Arakiya could mutter was "Princess." It was almost like a parent and child were reunited, as the solid demeanor around Arakiya collapsed immediately upon meeting Priscilla. To the rest of the group, Priscilla and Arakiya's relationship was unknown. Despite the developments, Subaru was still confused as to why Priscilla was in Wallachia. Arakiya stepped forwards towards Priscilla again, calling her princess. However, she was cut off by Priscilla, who told her to shut up. And in the moment, Priscilla swung the yang sword, slashing at the floor in front of Arakiya's feet, creating flames blocking Arakiya's advance. Priscilla questioned why Arakiya was coming towards her, if Arakiya believed that Priscilla would be happy to be reunited. If she believed that, then Arakiya was a fool and naive. Arakiya then again calls out for Prisca-sama, only for Priscilla to state that Prisca is dead. Time has passed, yet Arakiya is still the same. This is the observation Priscilla makes, and Priscilla states that she is disappointed in Arakiya. Subaru, viewing this, can see that Priscilla's harsh words has deeply hurt Arakiya. However, even though Arakiya was emotionally wounded by Priscilla's disappointment in her, she refused to bow down to that emotional wound. Priscilla questioned whether or not Arakiya can rekindle her interests. In response to this, Arakiya jumped off the ground and made her way towards Abel in order to kill him. Subaru, reacting to Arakiya's dash towards Abel, calls out for Priscilla to help. However, Priscilla tells Subaru to be quiet. As Arakiya approaches Abel, Subaru couldn't do anything to save him. After all, Subaru was exhausted and injured, and Abel had no way to fight Arakiya. However, what happened next shocked Subaru. Abel stomped his foot on the balcony he was standing on, causing it to collapse. However, Abel did not fall to his death. He instead grabbed onto a curtain which was hanging from the top floor to save himself. This was Abel's trump card, hoping to catch Arakiya off guard. However, Arakiya was extremely strong and fast and was able to regain a foothold, aiming to kill Abel as he was dangling there from the curtain. Abel had no other methods of escape. Abel would die and Subaru couldn't do anything until Subaru heard a voice. This voice was someone that stated that Subaru and him were brothers. This person was Al, and Al stepped in front of Arakiya, stopping her from approaching Abel. Subaru realized who it was. After all, if Priscilla was present, it's only natural that Al would be here. Al states that he's happy to reunite with Subaru again. As Al and Arakiya fight, Arakiya tells Al to move out of the way and that Al cannot beat her. However, Al blocks her attacks. Al talks about the fact that him and Arakiya have a shared past. However, Arakiya is confused. Al continues, stating that they trusted each other with their lives. Priscilla tells Al to hurry up, with what he needs to do, getting frustrated at Ao. Ao, despite this, is able to block all of Arakiya's attacks, one after another. Subaru noticed that Priscilla wasn't really doing anything and asked Priscilla for help. However, he was again turned down, but then surprisingly Rem jumped in to asking Priscilla for help, but Priscilla said to observe the situation more closely. Arakiya was continuing to barrage Ao with attacks, but Ao was able to keep her at bay. One weird thing was how Ao was able to block attacks which came at random angles and speeds. The moment they were waiting for happened. Abel called out and Ao rushed in to attack Arakiya, breaking Arakiya's elbow in the process. The only person not really surprised by this was Priscilla, as Subaru and Rem were caught off guard by this development. However, in the process, Ao was kicked in the neck by Arakiya, launching him off the balcony into the darkness down below. Now that Ao was gone, Arakiya could kill Abel. However, a black figure appeared behind Arakiya. This person was holding a knife, and it turned out to be Mizelda launching a surprise attack. However, Arakiya reacted faster, stabbing her in the torso and disarming her. Now that Mizelda was taken care of, Arakiya made her way to Abel. However, she was called by Mizelda, who was still alive, and grabbed Arakiya's arm. Subaru realized that nothing could be done now. However, at that moment, Priscilla moved towards Arakiya's back, which was wide open. Arakiya wanted to slam Mizelda's body onto the presence which was approaching her. However, she didn't, because she realized that this presence was actually Priscilla. Arakiya once again called out Priscilla's name as she was struck by the Yang sword Valakia. Priscilla stated that she told Arakiya in the past to be prepared for the next time they met, a meaning Subaru did not understand. With that, Arakiya collapsed onto the floor. Rem called out to Mizelda and attempts to actually heal her. Subaru was still shocked and is called by Abel to help, because of course Abel is dangling off the balcony. Subaru looked around and realized that there was too many injured people. To fall here would mean to lose overall. Subaru thought about Priscilla, who was unpredictable. She was useful in the battle at Priscilla, but what about now? Now that Abel was saved, he called out to Priscilla. However, he did not call her Priscilla. He instead called her Prisca Benedict. Priscilla responded that the person was dead, and people that are dead cannot speak. Vincent then asked what her name was, for her to respond that her name was Priscilla Barriel, and it would be a name that Vincent Abelux should remember. Subaru realized that immense pressure was radiating between both Vincent and Priscilla. Priscilla, who knew Vincent's name, and Vincent, who called her a different name. However, the tension was broken from a groan from Aldebaran, who was caught in an external crystal light beneath the balcony, as he muttered that he was at his limit and needed help getting up. And with that, the chapter ends. I have a lot to unpack here, by the way, so if you want to hear my thoughts on the chapter, this is going to be my unedited sort of like response. So there's a lot to unpack, because for those that haven't read Crimson Countess and Crimson Afterglow, you will be confused. So Prisca Benedict is Priscilla's real name. When she was born as Prisca Benedict, and what happened was she took the name of Priscilla Barriel. So that's essentially what happened to her. I highly recommend you read Crimson Afterglow to get Priscilla's backstory with Arakiya. And Arakiya was sort of like a dog that would always go to Priscilla, and Priscilla did care for Arakiya. The one thing you also need to realize is in Crimson Countess, Ao and Arakiya actually meet each other and they fight Hornet, and they beat Hornet in the fight. And if you've been following my community posts, you would see Hornet's design. And Arakiya and Ao fight. Now the reason why Arakiya doesn't realize that Ao is because Ao is wearing a helmet. And in Crimson Countess, Arakiya sees Ao's face. So that's the reason why when Ao's talking about their shared past, you know, Arakiya doesn't realize who it is because she can't see Ao's face. So again, EX5 is coming out, and it's going to most likely contain Crimson Countess and Crimson Afterglow. So again, like, you really should read those stories. They're translated, and you'll understand the story a lot more if you read them. But yeah, onto the actual chapter. It's obvious that Ao is looping. He's using his ability to reset to fight Arakiya, because there's no way he should be able to survive, which shows that Subaru's not affected by Ao's authority. Like, people believe that if Ao resets his territory, then Subaru would reset, but that's obviously not the case. What else do we know? I think that's really it. Honestly, I didn't like how Subaru didn't do anything. Like, just reading the chapter, Subaru was so useless. He didn't do anything. You know, even Rem went to heal Mazelda, and Subaru was still shocked. And, like, Abel had to tell Subaru to come do something. And I'm not sure why Subaru was acting like an absolute beta that chapter. But either way, I'm glad the web novel is back. I don't think Tappei will constantly upload chapters. I feel like this is a troll chapter he's randomly uploading. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this.